Your name and spell it, please. No. How many times does that happen? Okay, so yeah, I mean, obviously, while a lot
Welcome to Sackets Harbor, Brian.
No, a lot of focus on national issues, but it seems like when you walk around and talk, it's a lot of focus on what's local concerning these folks, right?
Yeah, I mean, here in Sackets Harbor, obviously, small village, very focused on, how can they grow the economic opportunities here. We talked before whether it's, making sure that tourism is number one, but also all their ancillary businesses. And you heard a lot about, the importance of Fort Drum right here in the local community, both for the tourism as well as, folks are here year-round.
On the flip side, you did come out today with a statement about Medicare, the ideas that you had, not a plan, but ideas.
Yep.
There's been some reaction that says, how is this any different than the voucher system from the Democrats? But it's not. It's different.
It's different. It's clearly different.
Yeah.
And so, part of it is just choice. Like right now, if you're a member of Congress, you get an incredible choice, what people don't have when they have traditional Medicare. We want to make sure people, can go ahead and shop for what plan makes sense to themselves, as well as some common sense measures. When you start thinking about, where do we need to go as a country? You're like, well, you certainly can have the choice of the plan you want, but on top of that, you say, okay, well, do we have the right program? And so part of it is, things like making sure we get, wrench the waste and fraud out of the system, make sure that it's, sized appropriately in terms of the population. So, people who are my generation and younger, we need to slowly over time, phase in, a higher number in terms of what the retirement age is. But on top of that, to be very clear that, we're not touching, anything. And my mom would saw my arm off, for heaven's sakes, if we touch any of the current Medicare programs. So any of the current beneficiaries, any changes are just off the table.
So I guess in future, would you recommend making certain changes mandatory or still allow the process to go as is?
Well, the competition is really what's going to drive costs down. But part of that is to say, give people the opportunity to pick what they want to. And so part of, when you, unfortunately, my opponent, when they voted through Obamacare, cut over $700 billion from Medicare. But on top of that, reduced what they call Part C, which people know as Medicare Advantage. And I certainly heard all over the district being like, why is that Medicare Advantage? I enjoy that program. It allows me to have those types of choices. Why did that get cut as part of Obamacare? Why can't we at least keep that part? So I think using that as a platform, we can build that up, and I think it goes a long way to creating a choice, creating opportunities, wrenching out the inefficiencies and right-sizing the system to make sure that, people truly are covered. And then again, at the end of the day, look, we're not going to cut Medicare. That my opponent did that, and people who are currently in the system, folks like my mother, it's not going to be touched.
So on the additional choice for Medicare recipients, I'm curious as to how that's different from the current Medicare Advantage, because that already offers the private choices. So how does that?
Well, certainly, again, the Obamacare cuts the Part C, the Medicare Advantage, number one. But part of it is to actually use that as a platform to give everybody the opportunity. Right now, I mean, you go to ask people who are, in the congressional system, members of Congress have an unbelievable array of choices that don't have, the impact and allows people right now who unfortunately don't have that choice that you could actually get that choice. That makes a huge difference. So again, these are ideas to sort of set the platform to build off of it as part of an actual comprehensive plan that hopefully we can get done in a future Congress. Because look, we have to make these choices, and we have to go ahead and provide the competition using what we have as a framework, but also making it make sense when we're talking about getting rid of the waste and fraud, when we talk about getting it for the the right age, and most importantly, taking away the scare tactics. Because right now, I'm the only candidate that didn't cut over $700 billion from Medicare, and making sure that people, again, like my mom, who will probably be watching on TV, just says anyone who's currently under Medicare is not going to have any benefit touched whatsoever.
So it's a matter of expanding the number of people who are eligible for Medicare Advantage? Is that what you mean?
More than that, to everyone who's eligible for Medicare to have the competitive pressures actually help them in their choices, so they get a full choice, like, again, people in Congress do, to say, you know what, this plan's for me, and then with that competition, because certainly you'll have the providers, competing, and then just like anything else from what we see in the economy, choice and competition will help the consumer at the end of the day.
There are some think tanks who came out with a report recently that said the Medicare Advantage plans are actually more expensive than traditional Medicare.
I've seen that, but actually I don't think it's the case at the end of the day. I mean, there's other, reports have said, what, that's because basically Medicare Advantage, offers a greater amount of services that actually, so it's really not apples and oranges. And so I would submit I don't think that's correct. And more importantly, that you need to have a full footprint in terms of all the Medicare folks who actually, guess what? No one's ever said, I'd like fewer choices to me. people said, I'd like to keep my doctor. I want to make sure that I'm covered. And oh, by the way, why does it cost so much? Why is this? We hear about the fraud, and we hear about, programs not being run efficiently. Those are the things I hear about on the trail.
One last question on health insurance. You said one of the popular things in Obamacare is the requirement that insurance companies allow parents to cover kids until they're 26. And in your statement, you said we should continue that. How would you propose continuing that? Would you have to legislate that? Would that be?
Yes. I mean, again, part of, saying, we need to, undo Obamacare and all the negative things, but certainly that's one example of saying, we need to go ahead and make sure that we have, health care for the 21st century. And part of that is, I think it makes sense to have people who are young folks who are, going through school and can continue on up to age 26. I think that makes sense, and I think most people would agree with me.
And then the donut hole, too, was another thing in Obamacare.
You good on that?
Well, I thought of one last thing. Do you think that increasing competition, increasing state lines, insurance being purchased over state lines, do you think that's going to be enough to drive down the cost to make up for the costs that for example, closing the donut hole? Do you think that it's going to work out in the budget to make it deficit neutral?
I think when you think about in terms of some of the rules, and again, a lot of it will get to the minutia, but when you talk about increasing competition, getting the waste and fraud out, making sure the age is correct here when folks are living as long as they have, and to make sure that it's for people who are really my generation and younger, that this is something we can leg into over the course of 20 to 30 years. So the answer is yes. These will get us to a point where certainly in the area of getting the program we can actually afford. And so unfortunately right now, again, folks like my opponents, it's going to be insolvent in 10 years, and they're cutting specifically Medicare Advantage and generally Medicare budget by over $700 billion. And we need to make sure that going forward, these programs are funded under the rules that we can actually afford.
What do you take from this Romney video? This video that comes
I
up?
disagree. I just disagree. Look, plenty of folks are Republicans. A lot of folks are on assistance not because they want to, because they have to. And I could not disagree with the governor more. Because look, we all fall in tough times. Part of the social safety net is to make sure that we as Americans give people the opportunity to spring back. I have a problem when it becomes a hammock, when people generation after generation. And so I just disagree that there's plenty of folks who are going to vote for me, that may have a different view with Governor Romney as well. And I just wish he didn't say it, frankly.
One thing that we heard from the motel guy or the hotel owner was a lot of people are satisfied, not him necessarily, a lot of people are satisfied with Bill Owens, but not necessarily the president. How do you kind of change that? At least what do you do to kind of change that?
Well, we're going to talk about the record. I mean, look, this is all going to be, I disagree with any personal attacks. This is about a voting record. This is about, policies. And I think when people look time and time again, my opponent's record versus, my ideas, that we're going to come on and look, you can't go back. At some point, it does become math, Brian. And my opponent won with 48 and 47.5% of the vote. So we're going to have, might not be a direct one-on-one. We'll have a third party, but certainly we won't have a third party from the right this time, like we saw in 2009 and 2010. And so, we're confident that with a one-on-one exchange of ideas that we'll have over the course of the next 7 weeks, that people will know the clear distinction, they know the contrast. And look, part of it, when we have unemployment as high as we do, when we have, over 5,000 people that are unemployed that were employed back when my opponent got sworn in. When we have $16 trillion of debt, people know we're going the wrong direction. And we're just going to give people a little reminder of what the policy difference is and really the clear choice they have between my opponent.
Are you worried about Governor Romney? Obama had a little bit of a convention bounce. Are you worried that Governor Romney might not have as strong coattails for down-ticket Republican candidates like you?
No, but here in the North Country, I think people, they look at the race specifically here. When they vote for Congress, they're voting for who their representative is going to be. I do think Governor Romney will win the congressional district, but specifically here, it's going to be myself versus my opponent. And I think they're going to take a look at both of our ideas, our record, and where do we need to go as a North Country. And I think the challenges are quite clear. We need to expand the economic base. We need to stop the out-of-control spending. And, with my skill set and my background as a businessman, I think people are going to warm to it. And we look forward to having a successful night on November 6th. Anything else?